Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Srimad Bhagavad-gita in my Uravil, as it is, chapter 10, text 2, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Name vidu suragana prabhavang maharshayah ahamadir hi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Traditionally, in this area, there has been much rivalry between Shaivites and Vaishnavas. Shaivas and Vaishnavas. And at one point in time it was very severe. There was killing and all kinds of stuff. Traditionally the Vaishnavas of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, they will never dream of entering a Shiva temple. We identify ourselves as the servants of the Vaishnavas, and we have entered a Shiva temple. Why should we do that if we're supposed to be servants of the Vaishnava? Because we, on the evidence of Srimad Bhagavatam, we accept Lord Shiva as the greatest Vaishnava. Vaishnavanam yatha shambhu. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Shiva has given us the example of the greatest Vaishnava. Of course, that is different to the traditional Shaiva conception of Lord Shiva. They know him as Parameshwar, the supreme controller. And the Vaishnava version is Ishvara Parama Krishna Satyadananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. This is supported by the text of Bhagavad-gita that we just read, in which Lord Krishna states, Ahamadir hi devanam, I am the source of all the various gods. Well, if that is true, then how is Lord Shiva Parameshwar? Well, it's true. Krishna is Parameshwar and Lord Shiva is Parameshwar. Usually the distinction is between Vishnu and Shiva, but we generally say Krishna because we know Krishna is the origin even of the different Vishnu forms. Lord Shiva, he has various names such as Bhutanath, which means that he, being very kind to the ghostly beings, he gives them shelter and attempts to uplift them. So his jurisdiction is of this material world. So he is Parameshwar, he is the supreme controller in the material world. But he himself identifies himself as a servant of Lord Vishnu. It's just like if you're living in Thiruvanamalai and someone introduces you to the richest man in town, they'll say, oh, he's the greatest, he's the biggest man. That's true. But it's only true within a specific context. So when it's just the same thing. If we say Lord Shiva is the supreme controller, that's true, but within a limited sphere. So people whose vision does not extend beyond the material world, they see Lord Shiva as supreme. And they will cite instances just like Lord Ram is worshipping Lord Shiva at Rameswaram. This has to be understood again contextually. That Lord Rama, who is Lord Vishnu, but he takes the form, he takes the role of a human king, and as Maryada Purushottam, the Supreme Lord, who establishes the proper etiquette within human society, he teaches people that we should respect Lord Shiva. There is another evidence, pramana. We say it's pramana. Kshiram yatha dadhi vikara vishesha yogat sanjayatena hitataf pritagasti heto yah shambhutama pitata samupaiti karyat govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. In this example, Lord Shiva is compared to yogurt and Lord Vishnu or Lord Govinda to milk. So what is dadhi? It's only milk. If we say that this yogurt is only milk, it's completely non-different from milk, that's true. So in the same way, Lord Shiva is non-different from Lord Govinda. But at the same time, milk and yogurt are not exactly the same. The taste is different, the effect on the body is different. Another point is that from milk comes yogurt, but from yogurt you cannot get milk. So this is an example that Lord Shiva is only constituted of Lord Vishnu, but at the same time is different. He is a transformed form of Lord Vishnu and his greatest devotee. So these can often be very controversial subjects. Nowadays I won't be killed for saying this. Previously it might have been very dangerous to say this. Maybe in one sense it was good that that kind of tension was there. At least people were very serious about dharma. At least everyone believed very seriously in God. They were fighting over who he was, but they all believed in him. It wasn't that the government was promoting atheism, which is going on nowadays. Anyway, there's no need for us to here get into very controversial subjects. But we would like to present this message of Bhagavad-gita as it is. This verse is one of several in Bhagavad-gita in which Lord Krishna establishes his supremacy. And actually, we can see there is a different result from worshipping different demigods and from worshipping Krishna. In Bhagavad-gita also Lord Krishna says, Yanti Deva Vrajat Devam. Those who worship the demigods, they go to the demigod. But those who worship me, Krishna says, they come to me. So by worshipping Krishna, one gets a fully transcendental effect, if one is actually worshipping him in the proper way. In Bhagavad-gita, Lord Krishna is recommending Shuddha Bhakti. That means worshipping Krishna without any material desire. That is the nature of the jiva. It is not that, well, someone likes to worship in a Christian way and someone likes to worship as a Shaiva and someone likes to worship as a Vaishnava, and then God has to change according to our desire. But the Supreme is as He is, and it is our duty, if we are interested in self-realization, to understand who He is and act accordingly. It may be that someone is born in a Christian family and therefore they think that Jesus is God. Or someone is born in a Muslim family and they have the concept of Allah, Allahu Akbar. Or someone is born in a general Hindu family and they have a general many gods idea. But real God realization begins when we go beyond the conventional platform of ordinary worship. Jivanti tattva jignasa. One should be eager to inquire into the actual fact. We should live only for the sake of understanding what is the actual reality. This reality is explained especially in Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the declaration, Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu. This is the actual message of the Vedas, which suggests that all the rest of the Vedas is not really the message of the Vedas. And actually Lord Krishna states that in Bhagavad-gita. Traigunya Vishaya Veda. The Vedas, they deal with the three modes of material nature. These are material subject matters. But real knowledge begins atato brahma jignasa, inquiring on the platform beyond Sattva-gun, Raja-gun, Tamagun. Sometimes people ask, well, why are there so many religious systems in the world? Well, the answer is that there are many different levels of consciousness among human beings. And to accommodate to people's various desires, the Supreme Lord manifests various types of religious processes. But most people, in the name of religion, do not actually want to give themselves to the Supreme Lord. Most people are materialistic. They pray, give me this, give me that, give me something else. So there are various kinds of religious processes for materialistic people. There are religious processes for people at the very low level of consciousness that they like to kill animals. So people on a low level of consciousness, they like to eat meat. So some religious systems allow that, but that is not a high level of religion. Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad-gita, Patrang pushpang phalang toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upaharitam ashnami pranatanaha. So he doesn't ask for meat, fish, eggs, coffee, tea, onions, none of these things. These are all tamasic foods. So one cannot advance in spiritual consciousness if one is attached to these tamasic foods. Apart from totally materialistic religion, there is what we can call a semi-transcendental stage. There are certain classes of person who realize that material life is useless. Material life means work very hard to become rich and famous and enjoy the senses and then die and become a cat or a dog. Or maybe if one is pious, one won't become immediately a cat or a dog, one might become a deva before that. But from the perspective of the transcendentalist, being Indra or being a dog, there's not much difference. It's all useless. Material life means janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha. So certain persons, they become detached from material endeavors and they become transcendentalists. But they fail to recognize the simple fact that they are subordinate to the Supreme Lord. And despite their detachment from the material world, they make the gross mistake of considering themselves one in all respects with the Supreme. So here is the famous, we're looking at the Gopura of the famous Shiva temple, and I was speaking briefly about how Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu is the source of Lord Shiva. As stated in this verse, that Ahama Adir Hi Devanam, Lord Krishna states, I am the origin of all the devas. This area is also famous for a transcendentalist who was known as a Maharsi. So he was a transcendentalist. He wasn't interested in material enjoyment. But at the same time, he failed to recognize his subordination to Krishna. And he presumed that by dint of his transcendental enlightenment, he was God. He was Bhagavan himself. But Lord Krishna states here that Maharshinam cha sarvashaha, ahamadir hi devanam Maharshinam cha sarvashaha. I am the origin of all the demigods and of all the Maharshis also. Maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Krishna is the source of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavaha, he states in Bhagavad-gita, I am the source of everything. So if we accept Bhagavad-gita, then we have to accept that Krishna is the source of everything. Various people interpret Bhagavad-gita in various ways to suit their own ideas. But the real way to understand Bhagavad-gita is to understand what Krishna is actually saying. Just like the mother may have cooked some nice food and she wants to share it out. And she says to the sons, now you just take it all equally. So one of the sons said, you see, she said to share it out equally and give me more. Then one of the sons says that, did you hear what she said? She said to share it out equally, but give me, you can all have equal shares, but I'll have more. Well, that's not what Tai said. It's something like what she said, but it's change a little bit for the personal advantage of one of the brothers. The person who heard that didn't like it because he wanted to get more. So in the same way, when Krishna says, surrender to me, I am the supreme, we may not like it because we are rascals. Therefore we change it a little bit and we reinterpret it. So even if one is known as a Maharsi or a yogi or whatever, if one does not present Bhagavad-gita as he is, then he is, according to Krishna in Bhagavad-gita, called Dushkriti or rascal. This is why the Vaishnavas and the Shaivas, they were tussling. Because the Vaishnavas, we don't have any objection to offering respect to Lord Shiva. That's very good. But if we say that he's superior to Lord Vishnu, that's not correct. So that's obstructing the real benefit that the jiva can have by understanding that I'm a servant of Krishna. So therefore we are presenting Bhagavad-gita Undamai Uravil, as it is. Srila Prabhupada has kindly presented the matter as it is. It's an amazing fact that we can ask any Hindu, any Hindu who's actually considers himself a pious Hindu, we can ask them, well, do you believe Bhagavad-gita, what it says? And they'll say yes. And if you ask them, well, do you know what it says? And they say, no, I believe what Bhagavad-gita says, but I don't know what it says. Or they have complete misunderstandings of what it says. Generally people are too lazy to read Bhagavad-gita. So they have a little poster in their office which has the Gita Saram, which is just complete rubbish and absolutely nothing to do with what Bhagavad-gita says. In this so-called Gita Saram, it states that whatever happened in the past, that was good. Whatever is happening now is good, and whatever will happen in the future is good. This, apart from being complete nonsense, has got nothing to do with anything stated in Bhagavad-gita. Rather, in Bhagavad-gita, Lord Krishna points out that Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. This material world, the situation of this material world is not at all good. It's full of the miseries of birth, death, old age and disease. If anyone comes up to us and says that everything happened was good, everything going on now is good, and everything in future is good, everything is just good, we should slap them very severely in the face. We should say, that was good. And now I'm going to do it again and it'll be more good. And we should slap them until they admit that they're talking nonsense. Because to misuse the words of Bhagavan, that's actually blasphemy. We should know what is in Bhagavad-gita. Krishna says, surrender to me, that is good. And not surrendering to me, that is not at all good. So whatever we do in this material world, now Indians have become very ambitious. They want to have women becoming astronauts and getting blasted to pieces, and materially prosperous and all that. How many Miss Worlds came from India? 3, whatever. So it's all useless. Without surrender to Krishna, everything is useless. You can be Miss World in this life, the most beautiful woman in this world, and the next life you can be the most beautiful she-dog running in the street. So this might sound shocking, but it's true. Sometimes the doctors, they diagnose someone who's got cancer, and they don't like to tell them. The doctors, they may diagnose you've got cancer, and they don't like to tell them. Or someone has got AIDS and they tell them, well, you only have 6 months to live, but don't worry, it's not so bad. We'll give you some treatment, it'll only cost 70 lakhs of rupees, and we'll extend your life to 7 months. The actual fact is that it's miserable, but we don't like to admit it. So this material world is miserable, and we are the cause of our own suffering. Purusha sukha dukhanam bhuktritve hetu ruchyate. Sometimes people ask, why has God made suffering? But we made the situation by which we create our own suffering. He is upadrashtanumanta cha. He sees everything and He lets us do what we like. And we create a situation by which, by performing sinful activities, we are forced to suffer in this material world. So really the only path of auspiciousness for the jiva is to recognize that my only duty is to surrender to Krishna. When we say surrender to Krishna, it might sound like something like a criminal surrendering to the police. But it's not like that. It's simply a matter of recognizing that Krishna is our supreme friend. Krishna is very sweet. We are meant for living very happily. We can live happily with Krishna. We can live happily in this world by chanting Hare Krishna. Now I'm traveling throughout India and throughout the world. I've been doing so for over 30 years. And speaking the message of Bhagavad-gita as according to my capacity, according to as I've heard from Srila Prabhupada. So we meet all kinds of people, from very rich, very poor, very famous, not at all famous. And we see that the only thing that actually makes people fulfilled is if they chant Hare Krishna. Everyone is struggling in this material world. Some people are very poor and they're struggling even to get enough food for their family. And some people are quite rich, but they're struggling because, I have to spend 1 crore for my daughter's marriage and I can't really afford it. They're also struggling. But devotees of Krishna, they're also struggling, but they're struggling to control the mind and senses and surrender to Krishna. Devotees are content because they know Krishna is looking after them. The path of Krishna Bhakti is very easy in the present age. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who also came here, he taught Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam Kalo Nastreva, Nastreva, Nastreva Gatiranyatha. He also visited this temple. It's a very practical process, chanting the holy names of Krishna. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
By chanting the names of Krishna, the dirt on the heart is cleaned. What is that dirt? They have this angioplasty. In medicine, if you have too much accumulation of fats and that are in the valves, then they have the angioplasty to remove the blockage and the passage of the heart. But there's no medical operation to remove the Kam, Krodh, Lobh from the heart. There's the spiritual operation of chanting the names of Krishna. This is a very practical process. Everyone can do it. In the modern age, people don't have so much time. In the name of progress, everyone is very busy and a lot of tension. So some time has to be set aside for sadhana. Otherwise, what are we living for? Most people spend most of their life working. From childhood, they're studying. Most of their time goes in studying. And then some time has to be set aside for sadhana. Otherwise, what are we living for? Most people spend most of their life working. From childhood, they're studying. Most of their time goes in studying. And then after qualifying, they're working very hard. Or even if you're not qualified, then people have to work long hours. You see, just like this Kalavati Mataji, who's fallen asleep over there, her husband is working long hours on the bus. You hear this auto rickshaw, this going past. These rickshaw drivers, they're working, like 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day. So somehow or other we have to make time for sadhana. Otherwise, what are we living for? What is the point? Just work, and then die. What is the point? Human life is meant for God realization. Eating, sleeping, alright, those things are there. But the main thing is we have to act in such a way in this life that we don't get born again. We have to act in such a way that we can go, on leaving this body, tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sojana, we can go to Krishna. That is affected by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. It is an effective process for awakening our natural loving feelings for Krishna. So we request you all to please start this process of chanting Hare Krishna. Take this up seriously in your life. Your life will be better. People think, let me go to Australia, my life will be better. Let me earn another crore of rupees, my life will be better. But we say there's no need to make such a drastic change. Just add this chanting of Hare Krishna to your life. It's very easy. Anyone who has got 2 lips and a tongue can chant Hare Krishna. And most people have 2 lips and a tongue. But most people don't chant Hare. Why don't they chant Hare Krishna? Well, maybe they don't know about chanting Hare Krishna. They don't know what a good effect they can get from chanting Hare Krishna. So we are telling you, you can have the perfection even greater than the Maharshis who are meditating in a cave. You, living in your family life, can attain a much higher perfection by chanting the names of Krishna. Even in the apparently materialistic life, if we make our desire to love Krishna, then that is far better than being a big yogi or a sannyasi or a tyagi. So this is our request to you. Please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Is there any question about this?
Is that Purva Janma Punya or not? Some people say it's there, some people say it's not there.
Well, some people say one thing and some people say another thing. What does Bhagavan say? Bhagavan, he speaks in Bhagavad-gita. And he explains there is Purva Janma Punya and Purva Janma Pap also. So yes, there is. Otherwise, why is someone born in a rich family and someone in a poor family? Why is someone born with a healthy body and someone was born with a congenital defect? As Maharsi Einstein said, I don't believe that God is playing dice with the universe. It's a fair world. The thing is, some people may say, some people say there is, some people say there isn't. Why don't you become educated in this subject and understand it properly? It's not a matter of opinion. Therefore, we are presenting so many books of spiritual philosophy. This is important to understand, isn't it? Is there any other question?
There is Shani, Rahu, Ketu, Vastu. What is
you chant Hare Krishna.
What is your command?
All these, they're all under the control of Krishna. If you surrender to Krishna, then 100,000 Rahus can do nothing to you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,